Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. As a reminder, we're recording this meeting and we will post the meeting video and the materials to our project website after this meeting is over. This is our October 12th, 2023 Filtration Project Neighbor Information Meeting. My name is Benita Oswald and I coordinate the communications for the Bull Run Filtration Project. I know it was a nice day out today, so it means that there's probably going to be a pretty beautiful evening out. So I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. Since we are still making our way through the land use process, we don't actually have a lot of new information to share. So hopefully it won't take too much of your time. But our program deputy program manager, Michelle Cheek, is here again to provide that update. Then we will, or you will have the opportunity to ask questions or provide comments, and then we'll wrap it up from there. So now I will turn it over to Michelle.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. As Benita mentioned, we really don't have any new information to share since our last meeting in July, but want to honor our commitment to meet quarterly with this group. And I think we might have a couple of new folks, or at least one new person, at our meeting tonight. So I thought I'd give a brief overview of the filtration facility design, and then just provide an update on our land use permitting process. So the slide here shows an overview of the filtration facility site, looking kind of south from Carpenter, or southwest from the main entry off of Carpenter Lane. And so as folks come into the filtration facility site, one of the first things they'll encounter is our administration building on the right there, and then our maintenance building to the left. And then behind the administration building is our chemical storage facility. And then across from that, and thank you, Aubrey, for moving the pointer, across from that is our solids handling facility. And then to the right of the administration building and chemical facility is our pre-treatment process, or our flocculation and sedimentation process. And that's where all the heavy stuff in the water, heavy turbidity and sediment drop out of the water. And then that clarified water, if you will, moves on to the filters, where any remaining turbidity or sediment and some of the pathogens in the water, such as cryptosporidium, which is the regulatory requirement for this facility, where cryptosporidium is removed from the water. And then from there, it goes on to our clear well, which is buried below the ground and treated with chlorine and ammonia to form chloramines, and then also our corrosion control chemicals, soda ash and carbon dioxide, before it's sent to our customers in town. And then this slide just shows the proposed access to the filtration facility site. So the primary access to the filtration facility site will be east off Cottrell Road onto Carpenter Lane, entering the site from the north, and construction traffic will also follow this route. We will also have an emergency access to the facility, which goes to Bluff Road. And that portion of the project is in Clackamas County. This emergency access was approved by Clackamas County, but was appealed, and there was a Clackamas County hearing on August 17th, and we're currently in the open record period with 2 weeks remaining for the applicant's final argument before a hearings officer makes a decision. Which is a good segue into this slide. So our primary focus right now continues to be on getting through the land use process. Our Multnomah County land use hearing was on June 30th, and the open record period for Multnomah County ended on September 28th with submission of our final argument. And so now we're waiting on a hearings officer decision, which is expected in early December. I think I'm covering most of the Clackamas County information already, but again, we're in the open record period with 2 weeks remaining for our final argument. And we'll be able to provide another permitting update at our neighbor meeting in January. And once we do get started on physical construction, after we get through land use, we anticipate moving quickly, and there could be a need for more frequent meetings to share information and get feedback from this group. So I think that's all we had, which is a good opportunity for me to mute real quick while my dog barks.
All righty then. Thank you, Michelle. Now we can open it up for questions or comments. You can do that by taking yourself off mute. You can raise your virtual hand. You can turn on your camera and raise your actual hand, or you can simply type a question in the chat. Is anybody that has anything?
Yeah, hi, this is Todd Given. What is the estimated preliminary schedule for construction launch to construction completion?
I'll start with construction completion. So we have a regulatory compliance deadline of September 30th of 2027, by which we have to be serving treated water to our customers. In terms of an anticipated start date, we don't have an exact start date just yet. There's lots to consider when finalizing our construction contracts for the filtration facility and pipelines, including negotiation of the GMPs, schedules, land use, and conditions of approval that might come out of land use, and some other contractual considerations. So we don't have an exact start date just yet.
All right, I hope that answered your question. Any other questions or comments?
If nobody else does, I do have more. My apologies.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we own an engineering consulting company that is proposed for this project as a third tier sub through multiple mechanical contractors. And so I'm just trying to make myself as aware of both the public and the project needs as possible. And I've heard that the projects are targeted to be awarded approximately starting in January. Is that still the targeted project? I'm just trying to forecast my short and long-term project opportunities.
Yeah, Todd, I would direct that question to the subcontractor that you're proposing to, and they can then direct that question to the prime contractor. They're ultimately, I suppose, driving that process in terms of when subcontracts get signed. I mean, obviously they can't sign a subcontract until they have a construction contract or an executed construction contract with the Water Bureau, but they would be able to provide probably the best information for you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, that's the feedback that they're giving me. So I just didn't know if something had changed on your side.
Okay, so I do see there's a question from Pat and Dean in the chat. Do you know exactly where the tower is going to be? Maybe, Aubrey, can you scroll back to the map of the site? Yeah, so you can see it back in the back. Michelle, did you want to give any better description of where that tower is?
Yeah, the tower is in the kind of the southeast corner of the site. Sorry, I was looking at southwest on the screen and trying to think of direction. But Aubrey, if you could point to it again on the screen there where the communications tower will be located on the easterly, I guess, southeasterly edge of the facility site.
Maybe two, you can bring up that next slide. I think that has more of a flat version of the site that we pointed out there.
Yeah.
Looks like your mouse might disappear a little bit in there, but oh, there we go. I see it.
Yeah.
Does that help, Pat and Dean? So that is going behind their residence. Is that right, Michelle?
Yes, and that it's in the same location that has been shown for quite some time now, and also same location as it is in our land use application.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, Michelle. My audio kind of froze earlier when you were asking the question about when you were answering the question about when the project is going to be started, the layout of that. Can you repeat that summary really quickly, please? Sorry.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Well, if I'm not interpreting your question correctly, let me know. But we don't have an exact start date yet, but our completion date remains September 30th of 2027. And I had mentioned that there's lots to consider as we're finalizing our construction contracts and heading into construction, including negotiation of the GMPs, schedules themselves, land use, and any conditions of approval that might come out of land use, and some other contractual considerations. So we're still working through some of that with the prime contractors, and part of that will be an exact start date, which we don't quite have yet.
Thank you.
I have a question with regard to the communications tower. Is there considerations to creating facades or some type of an appearance that represents more of a natural or their organic appearance, as opposed, because there are ways that they make to make them look like trees and things like that without impacting their operations? Has that been in consideration?
We do have, I believe, color scheme requirements that we have to meet as part of land use requirements for the tower. And but in terms of what we have proposed in our land use application, it is just a lattice tower at this point in time.
Hey, anybody else? And if you guys can hear, my cat is now meowing, trying to compete with Michelle's dog, I think. All right, keeping eye on this chat. And any hands? Raise your hand if you like. You also come off mute, or show your video and just show your actual hand. Or if your video's on, I will just automatically assume you have something to say. All right, well, I don't want to keep you longer than we need to, so you go to that next slide. Thanks, Aubrey. So that brings us to the end of this meeting, and our next meeting is planned for January 11th. As Michelle had talked about earlier, we will have more meetings if we need to, other than the quarterly meetings, depending on what the status of our land use application is. In the meantime, you can feel free to reach out to me through email or through the portland.gov website. Usually those are the best options to get in touch with me. Or if you use the Bull Run Projects email, then there's multiple people that look at that email. So you can get the quickest response that way. Otherwise, I appreciate you all tuning in, and I hope you have a great evening and a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.